St. Agnes School in Alexandria. At his school, he is a member of the Student Council, Model United Nations, Model Judiciary, and the Honor Disciplinary Board. Wow. Outside of academics, he plays trombone for his school's jazz band, plays on the Fort Hunt rugby team, and is a member of the St. Stephen's and St. Agnes, its academic team. What does he not do, right?
Clean his room.
He came into contact with Inspire Virginia through Virginia's Governor's School for the Arts and Humanities, and since has registered over 50% of his senior class. Sam was thrilled to be a part of Inspire Virginia and has been interested in the political process since he lost his race for the class vice president in the 5th grade. He has been honored to be able to meet a number of congressmen from Virginia through Inspire and is extremely glad that he was able to take part in such an active and motivated organization fighting for such a noble cause. So Sam Dubke.
I would like to start my speech off with a quote from one of our nation's great presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. He said, "Nobody will ever deprive the American people of the right to vote except the American people themselves. And the only way they could do this is by not voting." Now, this quote is especially important in my mind because Roosevelt, as I'm sure you all know, was president during the Great Depression and the Second World War. He lived at a time when elected leaders in this country were populists, utilizing the public's anger at the ballot box, and at a time when democratically elected leaders around the world were leading their own nations down paths of war and destruction. A lesser man than Roosevelt, and there were many at the time, would have called for a return to minority rule, or would have been apathetic about what they regarded as a broken system of government. Roosevelt did not waver, because he knew that through cynicism, apathy grew, that through apathy, disenfranchisement grew, and that through disenfranchisement, tyranny flourished. This quote from Roosevelt is, in my mind, quite prescient today. From every corner, we, the American people, are being told that our system is broken. We're being told that we face issues so deeply ingrained in American society that we cannot hope to solve them. The American people, and especially the youths of America, are being told that their voice does not matter, and that their vote does not count. Populism is rising on the right and the left, and sophisticated political discussion has devolved into argument and discord. It is not hard to look back into the 1930s and see similarities with today. We have just been faced with the greatest economic collapse in almost a century. Establishment politicians seem more corrupt than ever, and income inequality is higher than it's been in generations. Yet there is hope today, just as there was when Roosevelt was president. And that hope lies solely with the American people, and especially with the American youth. We are here today because this group of young people is changing the way our society is working. We have been told since we were young that we are an apathetic generation, but we care more about our nation's political future than many others. We have been told that our voices do not matter, but we are speaking up and standing up and changing the status quo. We have been told that our vote does not count, but we are not only voting ourselves, but have registered over 1,700 first-time voters in the state of Virginia. There's a quote by President Obama that I would also like to share. He says, "Change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek." At Inspire Virginia, we really have been the change that we sought. We all see that American society and government is in many ways fundamentally broken, but we do not complain about it or blame it on an older generation or, because change is difficult, simply become apathetic. We sought to change our system to one that includes young people, and so we made strides to bring about that change. This year has been so fantastic because I have seen a change that I once believed to be impossible. In my school community, students who once did not care at all about politics are now more knowledgeable than ever about current events. They have been empowered to care because they finally realize that their vote does matter and that their voice does count. They now understand that all the problems that they complain about or fear, from rising tuition costs to the rise of extremism in the Middle East, will only be solved if the right people are elected and, by extension, if the right people vote. This change of mindset may seem small, but it is real and lasting. And if this trend of empowerment and self-realization continues, we could actually see substantial differences made in government. For making this all possible, I would like to thank everyone in this room, but especially Alex Chandler, Catherine Westmoreland, and Mary Beth Kinchin for coordinating everything that made this year so successful, and the founders of the Inspire US organization, Ira and Eileen Lechner. I know I speak for all the Inspire leaders when I say that without all of this assistance, we would never have been able to do any of this. Thank you so much for helping us make real, lasting change in a system that so desperately needs it. Before I end my speech, I would just like to read one more quote. It comes from the Bible, Matthew chapter 26, verse 41. And even if you're not a Christian, I think that this quote is relevant to our goals today. It goes, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Now, this may not make too much sense when talking about voter registration, but let me briefly explain. For many of us, this is the last time we'll be together as an inspired team. Soon we are going to move on from high school into the next chapter of our lives, and soon we're all going to be civically active young adults. So I want us to keep in mind that when surrounded by fellow students in our Inspire team, it is easy to say that we are going to continue the fight for democratic rights of young people. Our spirit is quite willing to continue the fight that we started 9 months ago at the Leadership Academy. But in a few more months, most of us are going to be off pursuing a higher education or a career. And when our lives become busy and we move farther and farther away from our high school days, our flesh will become weak. So my challenge to all of you in the near future and once you are adults is to continue the fight for the youth vote. We have had the privilege to be a part of this movement, and now we have a responsibility to keep it going. Thank you. It has been a pleasure to work with all of you over this year, and I hope you succeed in your future endeavors.